Man, this REO Speedwagon news, it really hit me hard. And I bet a lot of our listeners feel the same way. They just always seem invincible.
Yeah.
You know, like they'd be around forever, decades of hits, always touring. And then, bam, irreconcilable differences. What does that even mean? So let's dive into all this and figure out what went wrong and what it all means for the music.
Yeah.
It's a shocker for sure. REO Speedwagon, they've been such a huge part of American rock. You know, a band that's been there for literally generations of fans. So to see it all end suddenly, it's jarring. And the official reason, irreconcilable differences. It's like they're begging us to do a deep dive. It just makes you think something more to it than just creative differences or something. I think you're right. We need to try to figure out not just what happened, but the why.
Okay, so let's start with just the facts. REO Speedwagon, officially done as a touring band. As a recording entity, their last show was December 21st in Vegas. No farewell tour, no last hurrah, just done. Yeah, and that's what's so weird about it all. Why go out like that? Especially when you compare it to bands like Aerosmith, who just wrapped up this massive farewell tour. It makes you think that these irreconcilable differences are so bad that they couldn't even do a final tour together.
All right. It definitely feels like there's a whole story here, some big behind-the-scenes drama that led to this implosion. And from all these articles, it seems like the main issue is with the three main guys, Kevin Cronin, Bruce Hall, and Neal Doughty.
Yeah, you can't really talk about REO without understanding how those three work together. Cronin.
As the frontman and the main songwriter. He's been the face of the band for decades.
Yeah.
But the ownership of REO Speedwagon, that's where things get interesting. Hall and Doughty, they haven't really been touring with the band for a while now, but they still own a big chunk of the name, and that's where the power is. So even though Cronin was still touring and leading the band, he got outvoted on this decision.
That's what it looks like. Cronin has been pretty open about it all. He said he's sad and shocked. He wanted to keep going. Felt like the band was in a good place musically, and he definitely wasn't ready to just let REO fade away.
And that's where this irreconcilable differences thing gets really interesting. It's not just creative disagreements or personality clashes. It's a totally different vision for the future of the band. Cronin wants to keep going. And Hall and Doughty, for whatever reason, seem ready to call it quits.
Right, which makes you wonder, what were Hall and Doughty thinking? Doughty stopped touring back in 23, and Hall took time off for back surgery, also in 23, so maybe they just felt like they'd done enough, they were ready to retire from touring, and that included letting go of REO completely.
But that doesn't explain why they wouldn't let Cronin keep the band going, even with some new guys. Cronin even said he would have rather talked about it all privately instead of having it all play out in the media. This feels personal, like there's something else going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cronin's statements, you can tell he's hurt and frustrated, like he feels betrayed almost. He says he was blindsided, which makes it seem like there wasn't much communication happening.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. We have to look beyond just the music and think about the people involved. We're talking about a band that's been together for decades, been through so much, and undoubtedly formed really strong bonds. So for it to end like this, with all this acrimony and division, it makes you think there are some deep issues here that we'll probably never really know about.
You're right. Band breakups. They're rarely simple. There are always ego clashes, creative differences, money problems, personal issues that simmer under the surface for years. And with REO Speedwagon, it seems like all those things might have played a part in this.
And for the fans, I think it makes it even sadder. It's one thing to see a band just naturally come to an end, but it's a whole other thing to see it fall apart because of internal conflict. Makes you wonder if maybe they could have worked things out, if things could have been different.
It's hard not to feel that way, especially for the fans who have been there for so long. They've invested so much emotionally in REO's music and their story. It's like watching a family fight publicly. It leaves you with a bad feeling and so many questions.
Okay, so we know REO is done, and that irreconcilable differences is really just a nice way of saying things are messy. But what happens now? The music's not going anywhere. And Kevin Cronin already said he's going to keep performing. So is this the end of REO Speedwagon, or just the start of something new?
Yeah, that is the big question, isn't it? REO Speedwagon, the name, the brand, that might be done. But the music, the people who made it, they're still out there. That's what makes this whole thing so interesting.
Totally. It's like watching a cell dividing. Under a microscope, REO Speedwagon has split, but the pieces are still alive, still evolving. Who knows what they'll become? It's sad, but also exciting, like the end of one thing, but the start of something new.
And that's where Kevin Cronin comes in. He's not giving up. He's putting together a new band, same musicians from the last REO lineup, same guys, same energy, probably a similar set list, but it won't be called REO SpeedWagon.
That's got to be tough, to put your heart and soul into a band for decades and then have to start over with a new name. Like this weird technicality that's stopping him from calling it what it is makes you wonder if the music can really be separate from the name. Will it feel the same to the fans?
Good question. It gets to the heart of what a band really means. Is it just the name, the logo, a legal thing, or is it something more, something that's in the music, in the performance, in the connection between the artists and the audience?
And speaking of connection, Cronin isn't just doing his own thing. He's also going to be a part of that Brotherhood of Rock tour next summer. And the lineup is Styx, longtime friends and tour mates with REO, and Don Felder from the Eagles. It's like a classic rock supergroup.
It shows you how strong those bonds are. Even though REO Speedwagon is done, Cronin's still going to be playing with Styx. That classic combination, it's still alive in a way. It's like the spirit of REO Speedwagon is finding a new way to exist.
It's like a phoenix rising from the ashes. REO Speedwagon might be gone, but the people who made the music, they're finding new ways to reach their fans. And who knows, maybe this new chapter will be even better.
It could be. Sometimes change can lead to incredible creativity and growth. This could be a chance for Cronin to really step out on his own and explore his own musical identity.
Okay, but there's another part of this story that we haven't talked about yet. Gary Richrath's legacy. He was REO's original lead guitarist. And let's be real, his riffs and solos are a huge part of that classic REO sound. Songs like Riding the Storm Out, Take It on the Run, they wouldn't be the same without him.
You're right. Gary Richrath, he was a guitar hero. When he left the band in '89, it was a big deal for a lot of fans. And now, with the band officially over, people are thinking about his contributions again and how he's being remembered.
And it's not all good. Richrath's son, Eric, has been pretty vocal about what he sees as a lack of respect for his father's legacy. He's even accused Cronin of trying to erase his dad's role in the band. There's some serious bad blood there.
Yeah, it just shows that band breakups, even ones that happened years ago, can leave a lot of unresolved feelings and resentment. And in this case, it seems like Richrath leaving, and now the band ending
has brought all that old stuff back up.
It adds a whole other layer to this. It's not just about the current members, it's about the band's past and how it's still affecting things today.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, is there any way for a band to break up without it being messy?
Yeah.
Especially a band with such a long history. There are always going to be hurt feelings, different stories, different ways of seeing things. And for the fans, it can be really hard to make sense of it all, you know. Listening to you, it reminds me of how much music means to people. REO Speedwagon isn't just a band. It's a soundtrack to people's lives. It's full of memories and emotions. So when something like this happens, it's not just about the music. It's about those personal connections and how they're affected.
That's a really important point. We often focus on the business side of music, the contracts, the tours, the album sales. But really, music is about human connection. And when a band breaks up, it's those human connections that are hurt the most.
It's like a family going through a divorce. You've got the legal stuff, dividing up property and all that. But it's the emotional part that really sticks with you. The hurt, the feeling of betrayal, the loss of shared history. And for fans, it can feel very similar.
I agree. It makes you wonder, how do you deal with something like this? How do you balance the love you have for the music with the disappointment and sadness you feel about what happened?
Tough question. I don't think there's an easy answer. But maybe you can find comfort in the music itself. Even though REO Speedwagon is done, the songs are still there. They can still bring back memories, take us back to a certain time and place. So in that way, maybe the music can help us heal, give us some sense of continuity.
I like that. It reminds us that bands might come and go, but their music lives on. It keeps touching people long after the band members have moved on. And that's kind of beautiful. It shows how powerful music is to connect us, to move us, give us comfort and meaning.
You know, even though this whole thing with REO Speedwagon is really sad, I can't help but feel a little bit optimistic. Kevin Cronin, he's clearly not done making music. And with this new band, he can try new things and connect with his fans in a whole new way.
You're right. Maybe this isn't an ending, but a transformation, a chance for Cronin to become a different kind of artist, and for the music of REO Speedwagon to find new life.
Okay, so we talked about the breakup, the emotional stuff, the uncertain future. But we should remember that there was a final REO SpeedWagon show, a last hurrah, a farewell performance.
Yeah, it all came down to that night in Las Vegas, the end of an era, a final goodbye to REO SpeedWagon. What was it like that night?
From what I've seen and heard, it sounds like it was a really emotional night. Fans came from all over the world to see this final chapter. There was excitement, nostalgia, and definitely some sadness.
I bet. It must have been amazing to be there, to see the end of something so special. I bet the energy was incredible.
Oh, yeah. And the set list. They played everything, all the hits, Riding the Storm Out, Keep on Loving You, Take It on the Run, Can't Fight This Feeling, everything. I bet there wasn't a dry eye in the house during Keep on Loving You.
I doubt it. And Cronin, knowing it was his last time, singing those songs with REO SpeedWagon, it must have been so powerful.
Yeah. I read that he talked to the crowd about the band ending and what it meant to him.
What did he say?
Yeah, he said he was sad but also grateful. He talked about how, even though it was the end for REO SpeedWagon, he was so thankful for everything, for all the people who'd been a part of it, the other guys in the band, the crew,
Yeah.
and especially the fans.
Wow. That's got to be tough. Try and say goodbye, but also celebrate everything that came before. For a lot of people, REO SpeedWagon, it's more than just a band. It's the soundtrack to their lives, their memories, their relationships. So hearing Cronin talk about it ending, it must have been really emotional for them.
It's like a collective mourning process. And it makes me wonder, what did it all sound like? We talked about how emotional it was, but what about the music?
From what I've seen, the band was amazing that night. They played with so much energy and passion. Even for a band like REO SpeedWagon, you can see it in the videos. The energy is just radiating off the stage.
I bet. Thinking about those final moments makes me wonder what the fans were feeling. Was it closure, catharsis, a new appreciation for the music?
Probably all of that. For some people, it was a chance to say goodbye to a band that's been a part of their lives for so long. For others, maybe it was a way to celebrate the music and the memories it holds. And for some, maybe it was a glimpse into the future. Seeing Cronin's passion and knowing that he's going to keep making music, even if it's not with REO SpeedWagon.
I love that. Even though REO SpeedWagon might be done, the music
Yeah.
and the spirit behind it lives on. It's still connecting with people.
This whole thing with REO SpeedWagon, it makes you think about some really interesting things. About legacy, ownership, and what it means to be a band.
Totally. What defines a band? Is it the name, the members, the music, or is it something more, something that lives on in the hearts and minds of the fans?
Yeah. And what happens when a band breaks up? But people still listen to their music. Does the band really end? Or does it just change into something new?
We could talk about this all day, but I think for our listeners, who are probably still processing all this, the important thing to remember is, even though it's sad to see a band we love end, the music is still there. And sometimes, endings can lead to unexpected and beautiful new beginnings.
Well said. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be back here talking about Kevin Cronin's amazing solo career. Or maybe even an REO SpeedWagon reunion. Anything's possible.
Until then, it's time to crank up some REO SpeedWagon, raise a glass to the memories, and keep on rolling with the changes.